When DL Hughley joked about King Harris, he probably thought he was just being funny, the way comedians always do. But this time, he picked the wrong dad. Because when it comes to family, T.I. doesn't laugh. He erupts. What started as a harmless podcast jab turned into an emotional explosion that had Atlanta shaking like a 7.0 on the petty scale. Imagine mixing a father's pride, celebrity ego, and 20 years of suppressed Twitter beef. That's the cocktail T.I. served up the moment DL brought King's name into the conversation. Within hours, what began as a joke became the kind of public meltdown that made Kanye's Instagram rants look like guided meditations. This wasn't your typical celebrity clapback. This was T.I. on a mission, not just to defend his son, but to remind the entire entertainment industry that there are rules when it comes to family. And DL, he just found out the hard way, because when T.I. snaps, he doesn't just respond. He dismantles, dissects, and drags. And tonight, we're peeling back the layers of this feud, how one comedy bit turned personal, public, and painfully viral. Grab your popcorn, because this drama's just getting started. Let's rewind the tape. Before the chaos, before the memes, before the internet collectively turned this feud into digital fireworks. It all started on a chill weekday, with DL Hughley doing what he does best, talking slick behind a mic. Somewhere between political jokes and life lessons, he slid in a jab that made the whole South go silent. He said, T.I.'s son better calm down before his next album drops from the county jail. Cue the laughter. The audience howled. The producers chuckled. But Atlanta knew that sentence was basically an open invitation to war. Because if there's one thing the Harris family doesn't play about, it's King. Now, let's be clear, DL Hughley isn't new to controversy. The man's built an entire career off roasting celebrities, politicians, and rappers who take themselves too seriously. But this time, he didn't roast a rapper. He roasted a father's legacy. Because King Harris isn't just any celebrity kid, he's the son of T.I., the king of the South. The man who built his empire from rubber bands, trap beats, and dictionary-sized vocabulary words. You don't throw shade at the royal family and expect silence. To T.I. has always been the poster child for transformation. A man who went from hustling in the streets to teaching about elevation and expeditious growth in interviews. He's fought for redemption, turned pain into profit, and spent years trying to prove that street legends can evolve into family men. But when DL used his son's name as a punchline, he wasn't just cracking a joke. He was cracking the glass around T.I.'s image, the one he's been polishing for over 2 decades. And here's the thing about T.I. He might preach peace, but he's built for war. Within hours of that interview dropping, social media went crazy. Clips of DL's joke hit TikTok, Instagram, and X faster than a Zeus Network trailer. Fans were tagging T.I., waiting for the clapback. You could feel it coming. That slow, simmering Atlanta energy building like thunder in July. Then it happened. T.I. went live. No filter, no script, no chill. Just Tip sitting in his car, wearing that "I'm about to make a point" face that usually means someone's career is about to get humbled. His voice was calm, but every word dripped with controlled fury. He said, "There's a fine line between comedy and disrespect. Once you cross that line, ain't no laughing matter. Y'all can joke about me. I done been through everything, but you don't get to joke about my child." Boom. Internet explosion. Within 5 minutes, hashtags were trending. Respect King, Nam DL Hughley out of line, and, of course, more Thai paint playing. Blogs ate it up. YouTubers fired up their ring lights. Twitter turned into a courtroom. One side defended DL, saying comedians should have the freedom to joke about anyone. The other side backed T.I., calling him a real father for protecting his son. But what made it more chaotic? King Harris himself joined the chat, literally. The kid hopped on IG Live, grinning, confident, and ready to speak his mind. He said, "I don't care what nobody say. I'm living my life. Folks gon' talk. But y'all don't know me like that." That line, that teenage confidence, instantly went viral. Some called it maturity, others called it delusion. Either way, it added gasoline to an already flaming argument. DL Hughley responded next, and he didn't back down. In the next episode of his podcast, he said, "Look, I ain't mad at T.I. for defending his son, but if your kid keeps putting himself out there, people gon' talk. I don't make the rules, I just tell the jokes." And just like that, it turned into a generational feud. This wasn't just a battle between two men. It was between two eras. the old school comedian who believes nothing's sacred versus the new school father who believes not everything is fair game. It's like watching Dave Chappelle argue with Will Smith after the Oscars, only this time, nobody got slapped. Yet, meanwhile, fans started digging into King's history to pick sides. Clips resurfaced of King arguing with Waffle House staff, showing off stacks of cash, and talking tough on IG. People started saying, well, DL didn't lie. Others shot back, y'all love judging kids for clout. And while the internet debated morality, T.I. was reportedly calling his team, telling them he wanted to set the record straight. See, the Harris family's always been in the spotlight, between T.I. and Tiny's TV shows, the scandals, and the social media drama. Their lives have been public entertainment for years, but this time felt different. This time, it was personal. Tiny, who usually stays quiet during public beefs, allegedly told T.I. to let it go. But he couldn't, because this wasn't about fame, it was about family. And that's when things went from messy to full-blown meltdown. A few days later, T.I. posted a long message that shook the algorithm. It read, "There's a code among men. You don't play with kids. You don't talk on family. You keep it grown. The internet done made folks forget respect. But I ain't forget nothing." The post had over 1 million likes in hours. Celebrities started chiming in. Boozy left a comment saying, "That's real talk, fam." Rick Ross added a simple, "respect." But then Kevin Hart, of all people, tried to play peacemaker, commenting, "Y'all both legends. Don't let the internet win." Too late. The internet had already won. Fans started remixing the drama like it was a diss track. Memes of DL ducking T.I. popped up everywhere. Some people even photoshopped DL, wearing a bulletproof vest made of comedy flyers. One meme had T.I. holding a mic with the caption, "You can't spell Hughley without hugely mistaken." The chaos was delicious, the kind of messy celebrity feud that makes social media skip work. But behind the laughter, there was something deeper brewing. Insiders said T.I. was genuinely hurt, not angry for the cameras, not chasing clout, just hurt. Because deep down, he's been fighting to prove that King is more than the headlines make him out to be. He's the father who remembers King's first rap performance, his school struggles, his teenage attitude, his growing pains, all of it. To see it reduced to a punchline by someone who knows better, that's not comedy. That's betrayal. And let's be honest, this feud wasn't just about King, it was about T.I., feeling like the world doesn't let his family evolve. Every time they try to move forward, the internet drags them back into chaos. So when DL joked, it wasn't one comment, it was the straw that broke a decade of public judgment. And here's the wildest part. While T.I. was busy fighting DL online, King's music streams tripled. The controversy turned him from a meme to a movement. Suddenly, his latest single was trending on TikTok. Fan pages were multiplying, and people were saying, low-key, King might actually be next up. So ironically, the feud that was supposed to humiliate him ended up making him more famous than ever. But don't get it twisted. The drama was far from over. Because the next move? DL Hughley's about to learn that when you play with T.I.'s family, it's never just a clapback, it's a campaign. And the next chapter of this chaos? Let's just say, it made the internet forget about every other celebrity beef overnight. Now, this is where the feud stopped being entertainment and started looking like a heavyweight title fight. Because after T.I.'s "You Don't Play With Kids" post, the whole entertainment industry went into DEFCON 1. People started calling this the father versus funny man feud, and everyone had an opinion. Podcasts dissected every syllable, YouTube channels dropped reaction videos like mixtapes, and hip-hop blogs started writing it like scripture. By day 2, it wasn't just gossip, it was culture commentary. Should comedians have limits? Is T.I. too sensitive? Is King Harris misunderstood? It felt like The Breakfast Club, Drink Champs, and Shade Room were hosting the same family meeting at once. Even news anchors who never said expeditiously in their lives were suddenly quoting T.I. and DL. The man wasn't ducking. He was grinning. On his radio show, he said, "I respect T.I., but you can't tell me what's off limits. If your son's public, he's public. You can't pick and choose fame like a lunch menu." That quote alone lit the internet on fire. Some called it bold, others called it cold. But either way, it went viral. T.I. clapped back in full ATL preacher mode. He jumped on Instagram Live again, this time pacing like a man who just heard blasphemy. "Ain't nobody picking and choosing fame, partner. We picking and choosing respect." His tone was surgical, but his eyes? Pure fury. You could practically feel the Wi-Fi melting. And right then, the memes evolved. The internet went from laughing to choosing sides. One camp screamed, "Ours Team TI," claiming fathers have a right to defend their children. The other camp, Chinra Team DL, argued that comedy was sacred and no one, not even the King of the South, should police punchlines. Then came the plot twist nobody saw coming. Boozy Badaz. He hopped on Instagram like a referee who's also throwing punches, saying, "Man, DL better stop talking on people's kids before somebody really step." That clip spread like wildfire. You could hear the "ooh" reactions echoing from Atlanta to Hollywood. Even 50 Cent slid in with his classic trolling. He posted a meme of DL with a fake Comedy Central logo and captioned it, "This episode of Who Asked You?" starring DL Hughley. Of course, that post had the internet crying, but it wasn't all jokes. Insiders revealed that TI had actually reached out behind the scenes to try and talk to DL privately. The call, however, didn't go well. One source said TI wanted to clear the air like men. But DL made it clear he wasn't apologizing for something that was meant to be funny. That's when things got personal. Not just publicly, but spiritually. Because TI wasn't defending just his son anymore. He was defending his principle, his pride, his parenting. Days later, DL appeared on Vlad TV, and when asked about TI's reaction, he smirked and said, "If I'm wrong, then the truth shouldn't make you mad." Boom! Nuclear! The comment section exploded like fireworks. Even people who didn't care about hip-hop were tuning in just to watch the chaos unfold. Now, let's talk about King Harris for a second. The kid who was supposed to be the punchline ended up becoming the main character. Suddenly, he was trending on TikTok, his music was climbing, and his following was skyrocketing. He wasn't silent either. He posted a cryptic story saying, "Keep laughing. I'm focused." Short, mysterious, and perfectly timed, that post flipped the narrative again. Some fans started rooting for him, saying he was handling the storm like a boss. Others joked that King just found the best PR strategy of 2025. Either way, he was winning in visibility. Meanwhile, TI dropped a freestyle on Instagram. Raw, unfiltered, and clearly aimed at DL. He rapped, "You hide behind laughter, but pain got a sound. I built a kingdom. Don't clown on my crown." The line sent shockwaves. It was classy, yet venomous. DL didn't respond lyrically, but he made another post saying, "When comedians need bodyguards, something's wrong with comedy," and the memes kept coming. Someone edited TI and DL into a fake versus battle flyer titled "The Roast of the South." Another showed King Harris in a courtroom with the caption, "Objection, Your Honor." Jokes went too far. The internet had turned this feud into a digital circus. But underneath the laughs, people started asking deeper questions. How much pressure do celebrity kids face? Why do we treat their mistakes like entertainment? Why do we think joking about trauma is a hobby? Suddenly, this wasn't just tea, it was social commentary served scalding hot. Podcasts started debating the generational divide. Old school entertainers said, "We grew up on the kings of comedy. Nothing was off limits." Younger voices argued, "It's not about canceling jokes, it's about empathy." The feud had accidentally turned into a cultural think piece, and here's the plot nobody expected. Tiny finally spoke. On a live stream with friends, she said, "I know my husband. He don't move off ego. He move off love for his kids. That's it." Fans flooded the comments with support. Suddenly, what looked like overreaction now felt like raw humanity. But DL, the veteran, knew how to play the long game. He went quiet, completely silent for a week. No jokes, no interviews, no lives. That silence became its own strategy. Because in Hollywood, silence speaks louder than words. People started speculating if he'd backed down, or was just waiting to hit harder. Then out of nowhere, he returned with a cryptic tweet. Some people defend their kids, others raise them. It was short, brutal, and instantly viral. Blogs called it the knockout line. Fans gasped. TI's name started trending again. It felt like round 2 was starting all over. And just when everyone thought TI would explode again, he didn't. He stayed silent. That silence spoke volumes. It wasn't weakness. It was control. The same man who built his career on words decided to let actions talk this time. Behind the scenes, insiders said TI told his team, "Let the internet argue. I said what I said." And that's when you realized this wasn't just another internet beef. This was a generational story about pride, pain, and the price of public parenting. A comedian made a joke, a father drew a line, and the world turned it into a viral morality play. But little did everyone know, the feud's most shocking twist was still coming. a moment that would make the internet rethink who was right, who was wrong, and who actually won. Because when it came to the final act, this drama didn't just get personal, it got poetic. By the time week 3 rolled around, this feud had evolved from a social media scuffle into a full-blown cultural moment. The hashtags were still climbing, but the mood had shifted. Less jokes, more judgment. Think of it like watching the final season of a show where everyone's tired, bruised, and still pretending the cameras aren't rolling. DL Hughley's "Some people defend their kids, others raise them" line echoed across the timeline like a mic drop from the heavens. It wasn't just shade, it was a sermon disguised as sarcasm. Screenshots of it hit every gossip blog within minutes. Reddit threads broke down the hidden meaning. One commenter wrote, "All this sarp seem an hour be amiatamis." That line hit harder than any diss track. Another said, "DL just turned parenting into a TED Talk." But while DL basked in his newfound philosopher status, T.I. was plotting in silence. For the first time in years, he didn't rush to his phone. No lives, no posts, no clever captions. Just silence. And if you know anything about T.I., silence means calculation. He was moving with the precision of a man who'd been here before, the same strategic energy he used when he flipped the rap game upside down in the 2000s. Behind the scenes, sources close to the Harris family said T.I. was done playing social media tennis. He wanted closure, not clicks. But the internet? It wasn't ready to move on. Every platform was milking the feud for content. Reaction videos, conspiracy theories, think pieces titled "Comedy versus Clout, the T.I. Debate." Some even speculated that this was all PR for King's upcoming single, but those who know T.I. knew better. The man's ego might like attention, but not this kind of attention. Not at his son's expense, then came the twist. A video leaked from a charity event in Atlanta, a place both men were invited to. The clip showed T.I. and DL crossing paths backstage. No yelling, no security scuffle. Just two men face to face in what looked like a tense but civil exchange. The video had no audio, but the internet didn't need sound to spin a story. "Peace talk or face off," read one headline. "The handshake that broke the internet," said another. Within hours, T.I. posted a photo from the same event. Caption, "Real men talk it out. Ain't no beef, just boundaries." Boom. Closure served ATL style. Fans applauded the maturity. The blog sighed in disappointment. Because let's be honest, peace doesn't trend like chaos does. But something deeper happened in that moment. The narrative flipped again. The same people who called T.I. too emotional started calling him the blueprint for accountability. Parents across the internet were reposting his quote with captions like, "Protect your kids like this." Even comedians began to debate where the line of funny really ends. Meanwhile, DL doubled down on his version of growth. In an interview days later, he said, "Me and Tip talked. He loves his son, I respect that. I love mine too. Ain't no hard feelings, but I'm still gonna tell jokes." Classic DL. Smooth, self-aware, and just spicy enough to keep people talking. What nobody expected, though, was the ripple effect. Out of nowhere, King Harris became the most searched celebrity kid of the month. His followers skyrocketed, his songs hit streaming charts, and even people who'd mocked him before started giving him props for surviving the circus. In a way, the controversy had rebranded him. He went from being T.I.'s rebellious son to the kid who inspired a national debate. In the internet era, that's basically sainthood. T.I. saw it too. Instead of feeding into negativity, he used the spotlight to push positivity. He posted a family photo, him, Tiny, and King, with the caption, "Family first, always." That post did more damage control than any PR team ever could. Fans flooded the comments with support. Even some of DL's followers admitted, this is the most wholesome plot twist of 2025. But of course, not everyone believed the piece was genuine. A few cynics insisted the handshake was Hollywood diplomacy. Some claimed they'd only agreed to disagree. Still, both men kept their promise. No more shots, no more subtweets. The feud that once fed the algorithm finally starved it. And here's the irony. What started as a messy clash of pride ended up being a masterclass in growth. It exposed everything: the fragility of celebrity egos, the toxicity of public judgment, and the blurred lines between comedy and cruelty. It showed that even in a world where everything's content, some people still care about character. Behind the drama, T.I. and DL had accidentally taught the internet a lesson it didn't know it needed. They reminded everyone that fame doesn't erase fatherhood. That words, even when wrapped in humor, still hit hearts. That words, even when wrapped in humor, still hit hearts. that no matter how viral a moment becomes, real men can still end it with a handshake instead of a headline. And for King Harris, this saga became his unofficial coming-of-age story. He'd seen how quickly the world could turn laughter into humiliation, and how easily it could turn back into applause. He'd watched his dad fight, the internet judge, and strangers debate his entire identity like a public poll. But through it all, he learned something most adults still don't get. Attention isn't power. Peace is. Weeks later, T.I. dropped another freestyle. Not a diss, not a rebuttal, just reflection. Over a soulful beat, he rapped, "They laugh, we live, that's balance in fame, raise your son right, they still play with your name. But when love loud enough, the jokes fade away. We still kings, and kings don't explain." That verse went viral, not for controversy, but for clarity. Fans filled the comments with fire emojis and respect. Even DL reposted the clip with a laughing emoji and the caption, "Bars and balance." It was the kind of ending nobody saw coming. Two men, two generations, two egos, ending a war not with humiliation, but with humanity. The internet moved on, as it always does, but this one left a mark. Every time another comedian crossed the line, every time another celebrity parent defended their child, someone in the comments would write, "Remember T.I. versus DL? It got personal." And that's how legends are made, not by perfection, but by the moments where pride meets pain and somehow turns into perspective. In the end, the feud gave us something rare: authenticity. No PR spin, no fake apologies, no staged "we cool" selfie tour. Just two men realizing that behind every punchline and every post, there's a heart trying to protect something it loves. So yes, DL got his joke, T.I. got his justice, and King Harris, he got his redemption arc. The internet might have started it, but the Harris family finished it, with grace, grit, and just enough pettiness to keep it entertaining. And as the digital dust settled, one truth stood out like a headline carved in neon: never underestimate a father's fury or a comedian's courage. Together, they created one of the wildest, most talked about showdowns of the year, and somehow managed to end it like gentlemen, because in the kingdom of chaos, the real kings know when to roar and when to rise above the noise. And that right there, folks, is how a harmless joke became one of the wildest, most unpredictable showdowns in hip-hop history. A father's love, a comedian's pride, and an internet that just can't mind its business, all wrapped in one fiery saga that proved once again nothing stays private when clout's on the line. From DL Hughley's shady punchline to T.I.'s full-blown father fury, this drama had everything: comedy, chaos, and consequences. And while the world was busy laughing, both men reminded us that fame might make you famous, but family makes you real. Now, if you made it this far, you already know what time it is. Smash that like button like DL smashed that mic. Drop your hottest take in the comments. Was T.I. right to snap, or did DL just do what comedians do best? Don't hold back, because we read everything. And if you thought this was wild, oh, we're just getting started. The next celebrity meltdown, secret leak, or caught on camera moment is already loading. And you know Gossip Sphere will have the full breakdown before the blogs even wake up. So hit subscribe, turn those notifications on and stay locked in. Because here, we don't just report the drama, we dissect it, roast it, and serve it back with sarcasm, tea, and a twist of truth. Until next time, keep your receipts ready, your popcorn hot, and your judgment slightly hypocritical, because in Hollywood, everyone's laughing until it's their turn. This is Gossip Sphere signing off, where reality burns brighter than fiction, and the truth always comes with a side of chaos. Stay messy, stay curious, and stay tuned.